The 30th of January, 1933. Adolf Hitler is appointed Chancellor of Germany, bringing an end to German democracy. Guided by racist and authoritarian ideas, the Nazis abolish basic freedoms and seek to create a community which would unite all social classes and regions of Germany behind one Führer. The Third Reich quickly becomes a police state, where individuals are subject to arbitrary arrest and imprisonment. The Nazis effectively used propaganda to win the support of millions of Germans to facilitate persecution, war, and ultimately genocide. However, not many Germans know that their Führer is a sexual deviant who had a long-term incestuous relationship with his niece, who paid for it with her own life. Her name is Geli Raubal. Angela Maria Geli Raubal was born on the 4th of June, 1908 in Linz, then part of Austria-Hungary. Her father, Leo Raubal, was a tax officer and her mother Angela was a half-sister of Adolf Hitler. Geli had two siblings, Leo, who was 2 years older, and Elfriede, who was 2 years younger than her. When Geli was only 2 years old, her father died at the age of 31. The family moved to Vienna when during World War I, her mother Angela worked as a cook at the Jewish Academic Institute. Her mother was a tall, rustic, and energetic woman, and with a truncheon in her hand, she would rigorously defend Jewish students against attacks by so-called Aryan fellow students. Years later, Geli attended secondary school in Linz, where she was one of the first girls to graduate in 1927. 4 years earlier, in 1923, Adolf Hitler was appointed Geli's custodian, but it was not until 1924 that she met him for the first time, during a visit to Landsberg prison, where he was serving his sentence for his involvement in the beer hall putsch, which took place on the 8th and 9th of November 1923 in Munich, when Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party led a coalition group in an attempt to overthrow the German government. It was at Landsberg prison in Bavaria, where Hitler started working on his autobiographical manifesto, Mein Kampf, meaning My Struggle, where he outlined his beliefs, political views, and plans for Germany. Geli and her sister Elfriede accompanied their mother when she became Hitler's housekeeper in 1925. Geli was then 17 years old, and for the next 6 years she would remain in close contact with her half-uncle Adolf Hitler, who was 19 years her senior. Hitler was immediately taken with Geli, who was described as an unusual beauty, and from the moment she arrived, he never let her out of his sight. In 1927, Geli started studying medicine at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich and moved into a boarding house not far from Hitler's flat. Soon after enrolling, she interrupted her medical studies to train as a singer, and Hitler financed her singing lessons. After 2 years of housekeeping, Hitler asked his half-sister Angela to move to his larger home in the Bavarian Alps. For Geli, however, he had a different plan and asked her to stay behind and remain in his Munich apartment with him. Geli agreed, and for the next several years, it would be her and Hitler alone in the 9-bedroom Munich apartment on Prinzregentenplatz 16, not far from the Munich Opera House. They maintained separate bedrooms, but they were separate bedrooms on the same floor. It was during this time when Geli entered Hitler's inner circle and began to socialize with many of his friends and colleagues. The couple spent more and more time together, and some party officials began to criticize the Nazi party leader for spending too much time with his niece and neglecting political matters. Hitler was very attracted to his half-niece, and Geli returned at least some of the affection. Many who knew the pair claimed that there was a constant sense of jealousy surrounding them. Hitler was jealous of Geli's beauty and the men she flirted with, and Geli was jealous of Eva Braun, a young model employed by Hitler's photographer who idolized her charismatic uncle. While Hitler was one of Germany's top political leaders at the time, he was increasingly domineering and possessive of Geli, maintaining strict control over her personal life. He controlled her social life, dictating whom she could see and when, and preventing her from applying to music school in Vienna. In December 1927, Emil Maurice, co-founder of the SS and Hitler's chauffeur, informed his boss of his intention to marry Geli. Hitler was so infuriated when he heard the news that he dismissed Maurice from his service and forced Geli to end the relationship. After this incident, Hitler would not allow her to go out freely with friends again and made sure that he himself or someone he trusted was always at Geli's side, whether accompanying her on shopping trips, to the cinema, or to the opera. Otto Strasser, a prominent figure in the early days of the Nazi Party, later recalled that Geli, during a conversation in 1931, had told him that Hitler asked her to do simply disgusting things. He added that Geli was fed up with her uncle's enormous possessive jealousy of her and complained that she was subjected to sexual perversions for Hitler's satisfaction. Strasser recalls a tearful Geli telling him that when the night came, Hitler made her undress and demanded things which were extremely disgusting to her. Not everyone, however, considered Geli to be a victim left at the mercy of her powerful uncle. Ernst Hanfstaengl, a close associate of Adolf Hitler during the early years of the Nazi Party, considered Geli a calculating opportunist who manipulated Hitler. According to Hanfstaengl, despite Hitler's obsession with his niece, she cheated on him with close members of his inner circle. Henrietta von Schirach, a daughter of Heinrich Hoffmann, Hitler's personal photographer and wife of Baldur von Schirach, who served as head of the Hitler Youth, described Geli as rude, provocative, and rather confrontational, but of irresistible charm to Hitler, a quality that his niece took advantage of. Because of Hitler's possessiveness and control, the couple argued all the time. On one such occasion, on the 18th of September 1931, they had a fierce argument, as Hitler refused to allow her to go to Vienna. That evening, Adolf Hitler left for Nuremberg to attend a meeting, and that was the last time he saw his beloved niece. Geli Raubal was 23 years old when, on the morning of Saturday the 19th of September 1931, her body was found on the floor of her room in the apartment by Georg Winter, the husband of Hitler's housekeeper. Geli had allegedly committed suicide and shot herself with her uncle's pistol. Rumors immediately began to circulate in the media about physical abuse, a possible sexual relationship, an infatuation by Raubal for her uncle, and even murder. The Münchener Post, a socialist newspaper known for its decade-long campaign against Hitler and the Nazi Party before their ascension to power, even reported that the dead woman had a fractured nose. However, Geli was not the only woman who had intimate relations with Hitler and consequently committed suicide. In addition to Geli, Mimi Reiter tried to hang herself in 1928, Eva Braun attempted suicide in 1932 and again in 1935. But perhaps the most dramatic of these was the mysterious death of Berlin film actress Renate Müller. According to the exiled German director Adolf Hitler, Müller confessed to him that she had had a disastrous one-night stand with Hitler, in which the German chancellor writhed around on the floor, begging her to fulfill his deviant sexual lust. Soon after revealing this to Hitler, Renate Müller flew out the window of a room on an upper floor of a Berlin hotel, and the death was ruled a suicide. In total, of the 7 women who are believed to have had intimate relations with Hitler, 6 committed suicide, or seriously attempted to do so. After Geli's death, there was no autopsy performed, and decades later in 1985, an exhumation request to clarify the exact cause of death was rejected by the authorities. Hitler stated on the record that his niece had wanted to perform as a singer, but had not been able to withstand the pressure. However, her brother, Leo, who had been hiking in the mountains with Geli just a week earlier, testified that he had not noticed any signs of suicidal behavior. According to Nazi leader Rudolf Hess, who broke the news, Hitler was devastated and fell into a deep depression. He took refuge in a house on the shores of Lake Tegernsee in southern Germany. Geli was buried at the Vienna Central Cemetery on the 23rd of September 1931, and Hitler did not even attend the funeral. He did, however, visit the grave 3 days later, with a special permit from the Austrian government, as he had been denied entry to his native Austria since the Beer Hall Putsch in 1923. Hitler kept Geli's blood-stained room as a shrine to her, filling it twice a year with flowers to commemorate her birth and her death. The death of Geli Raubal remains one of the darkest points in Hitler's personal life. He would later tell friends that Geli had been the only woman he had ever loved in his life, and he wanted to marry her. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. On the 1st of September 1939, with the German invasion of Poland, he started the Second World War, the deadliest conflict in human history. By the end of World War II, the Nazi German regime, its allies, and collaborators murdered 6 million European Jews. Angela continued to work for her half-brother Adolf Hitler following her daughter Geli's death, but she strongly disapproved of Hitler's relationship with Eva Braun. She eventually left Berchtesgaden as a result and moved to Dresden. In spring 1945, after the destruction of Dresden in the massive air raid of the 13th to 14th of February, Adolf Hitler moved Angela to Berchtesgaden to avoid her being captured by the Soviets. Hitler apparently had a low opinion of the intelligence of both of his sisters, calling them stupid geese. Nevertheless, Angela spoke very highly of him, even after the war, and claimed that neither her brother nor she had known anything about the Holocaust.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.